come together today within the strengthening fellowship of friends and family to celebrate the life of Wendy Kathleen Hiepleh, to share our memories and our grief with one another, to honor Wendy's life, so abundant with love, with laughter, and with courage, and to share words of comfort as you all begin the grieving process. So on behalf of Wayne and Megan and Trevor and all their family, I'd like to thank you all for attending to show your respect and your love for this wonderful woman. For today we gather together to share our grief and our cheers, but also to share some smiles and chuckles as we remember and celebrate Wendy's full and abundant life. For we know that is what she would have wanted for us, a celebration. Indeed, in anticipation of this day, Wendy herself planned this service. So you will see in your order of service, the words in the italics are actually Wendy's words to you. Also, of course, as you all know, music was very important to Wendy and the family. And so we will be listening to some songs as well, including the one that we just heard, Color My World, which was Wayne and her wedding song. But yet, no matter how much time we took today, we would all agree that a spirit such as hers could not be captured or condensed. Therefore, in this service, we will share some thoughts and some memories, and then we will continue to the Aylmer Cemetery, where we will lay our dear sister to rest. But as we begin the celebration of Wendy's life, I invite her nephew, Geof, to come forward, share some thoughts and a poem written by Irma Bombeck when she received a terminal cancer diagnosis, and a poem specially picked by Wendy to express her heartfelt wish that all may recognize the shortness but the sweetness of life. Geof?
Megan said I was able to say a few words before I read the poem. So I just wanted to point out that long before she was a grandmother to Andrew, Amelia, Julia, Chiara, and Sebastian, before she was a mother to Megan and Trevor, and even before she was a loving wife to Uncle Wayne, she was an aunt. And she was my aunt, to be exact. She was only 16 when I was born, and that immediately made her my cool aunt. Because as I grew up, she was still young enough to like the same kind of music and movies that I did. To a kid, she was an adult that wasn't old. She liked Stairway to Heaven, she even liked to hear me play it on my guitar, and that solidified her status as a cool aunt. When I knew that I was able to say something here, I was honored. But I'll admit, at first I didn't quite know what to say. I could talk for days on what a great person she was, and all of us here could do that. But I felt I needed something more. I wanted to find the best way that a nephew could honor his aunt, and to do that, I'd like to speak to her grandchildren. Megan and Trevor are my cousins, and along with Kristoffer, Matthew, and my sister Kate, sort of formed our group of cousins and a group of grandchildren. That's what you guys are. You're siblings, you have cousins, and you're her group of grandchildren, and also nieces and nephews to your Uncle Megan or Aunt Megan, Uncle Trevor, Uncle Justin, and Aunt Liz. I can remember bringing my two children, Adeline and Tess, down to visit your grandma when they were young. She always had something fun for them to do or a treat to eat, and we would swim in the pool and then talk. Sometimes she would hint that she couldn't wait for grandchildren of her own. And sometimes she would come right out and say it. So when you all began to finally arrive, she just relished in the role of grandma, and I know she enjoyed every minute of it. Andrew, Amelia, Julia, Chiara, and Sebastian, I know that you are all going to miss her in your own way, but whether she knew you for 11 years or mere hours, she loved you all the same with as much love as she could possibly give. Anyone who watched her interact with you all, or even listened to her talk about you, could easily see that. Now, Andrew, You are her oldest grandchild, a role that I can kind of relate to. And with that comes some responsibility. But I know you're ready for it. Okay? You have younger siblings and cousins who didn't get to spend as much time with your grandma as you did. And they are going to look up to you to help them remember what she was like. Remember how much fun she was, remember how much she loved you all, and to hear stories about her. And don't worry, you don't have to do that alone, because there are a lot of people in this very room here that can help you with that. But your siblings and cousins are going to look up to you to keep her memory alive. And if you ever want to hear about what a cool aunt she was to me, I'd be happy to tell you that too. I would now like to read a piece selected by my Aunt Wendy, which is titled, If I Had My Life to Live Over, written by Aylmer. I would have gone to bed when I was sick, instead of pretending the earth would go into a holding pattern if I weren't there for a day. I would have burned the pink candle sculpted like a rose before it melted in storage. I would have talked less and listened more. I would have invited friends over to dinner even if the carpet was stained, the sofa faded, or the kitchen was being remodeled. I would have eaten the popcorn in the good living room and worried less about the dirt when someone wanted to light a fire in the fireplace. I would have taken the time to listen to my grandfather ramble about his youth. I would never have insisted the car windows be rolled up on a summer day because my hair had just been teased and sprayed. I would have sat on the lawn with my children and not worried about grass stains. I would have cried less while watching television and more while watching life. I would never have bought anything just because it was practical, wouldn't show the dirt, or was guaranteed to last a lifetime. When my kids kissed me impetuously, I would have never said later, now go get washed up for dinner. There would have been more I love yous, more I'm sorry's. But mostly, given another shot at life, I would seize every minute. Look at it and really see it. Live it and never give it back. Stop sweating the small stuff. Don't worry about who doesn't like you, who has more, or who's doing what. Instead, cherish the relationships you have with those who love you. Think about what you have been blessed with and what you are doing each day to promote yourself mentally, physically, emotionally, as well as spiritually. Life is too short to let it pass by. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. As you all know, gathering with friends and family was near and dear to Wendy's heart. So now we're going to listen as Megan plays Somewhere in My Memory by John Williams, a song which represented the joy and delight Wendy found in Christmas. Wendy would have certainly been proud of her children, and we're going to hear Trevor later. But also, of course, the apple of her eye were her grandchildren. So now, I'm going to invite her three eldest grandchildren, Andrew, Amelia, and Julia, to come forward and share their thoughts about their grandma.
What is a grandma? A grandma is a person who takes you out for lunch, and she lets you play with her toys, and she plays games with you, and reads you stories. She loved me very much.
What is a grandma? A grandma is a person who loves you. She will spoil you all the time. She will take you out for lunch and ask your grandson, would you like a Big Mac? She will give you anything you wanted in the world. She will take you out for ice cream and give you a double scoop. A grandma is a person who will pick you up after school and give you a sweet snack of chocolate and an hour of TV. She will watch you play in the pool, ask you if you like school. A grandma is a person who will convince your parents to have a sleepover. You choose to sleep on the living room floor. You will go camping with her in a motorhome, always have Honey Nut Cheerios followed by bacon and eggs for breakfast. At her house, you would have egg sandwiches for lunch, and then you would play Monopoly until your parents came to pick you up, which then you would make up reasons to stay. And she would give you hugs and cuddles and sweet treats. And she would make the best Christmas dinner ever. And she would do all of this to show how much she loves you. And that is what a grandma is to me.
What is a grandma? A grandma is someone who invites you over for a sleepover and asks you, what would you like for breakfast? Honey Nut Cheerios with pancakes and sausage, or pancakes and bacon. A grandma is someone who invites you over for lunch and always says, we are going out for lunch. Would you like a Big Mac? A grandma is someone who comes over when her grandson's garden, which is me, gets a little too weedy. A grandma is someone who loves to bake and cook. She always asks if her grandson and granddaughters would like to sit on the counter. A grandma is someone who makes a great Christmas dinner and makes the house look great with Christmas lights, and she always makes sure we get to help set up the Christmas tree. A grandma is someone who lets you play on the iPad for an hour or two, and the reason why she does this is all because she loves you so much. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, another song that Wendy wanted to share with you today is Green Day's Time of Your Life. So perhaps as you listen to these lyrics, you can hear her voice saying to you, I hope you had the time of your life.
Another turning point, fork stuck in the road. Time grabbed you by the wrist, directs you where to go. So make the best of this day.
too much. I'll try not to either. On December 11th, 1958, Wendy Kathleen Kristoff was born to proud parents Fred and Ruth. She was a little sister for big brother Wayne and big sister Karen. Her parents were the caretakers of the Aylmer cemetery at the time, so all her growing up years were spent there while living in the red brick house, which still stands there today. Some of her childhood memories included making delicious pretend cakes with sand, water, and sugar taken from her mother's kitchen in a small white playhouse with blue trim, and making small boats to sail between the house and chapel after a heavy rain which flooded the grounds. Visits to Fenton, Michigan were common as a child to visit her paternal grandparents. Her grandpa Martin would often visit on Fridays in his big Chrysler that smelled like liniment, smoking cigars, which the kids hated. The cars had plastic seats which stuck to Mom's legs in the hot weather when she would drive with him. She held a special place in her heart for Grandma Ethel Martin, Ruth's mom, who would often babysit Wendy and her siblings. Mom was no doubt proud when her dad purchased a boat for the family with Grandma Martin's financial assistance, and it was named the Ethel Wen, combining Wendy and Grandma Martin's names. The family would vacation at their cottage in Port Bruce, and Brother Wayne, 10 years Wendy's senior, would often take her fishing early in the morning before everyone else was up at the dock. Wayne also recalled she often had a big supply of Bazooka Joe bubblegum. Wendy attended McGregor Public School from grades kindergarten to 7 and Davenport Public School for grade 8. She was actually part of the first graduating class from Davenport. While attending East Elgin Secondary School in her senior years, she enjoyed playing alto saxophone in Mr. Grimes' music class and concert band, spending time with her friends, and also developed an interest in photography, perhaps which came from working at the News and Camera Store, which is where the IDA drugstore operates today. While not the strongest student, Wendy was obviously trusted by her teachers, as she was often asked to babysit their children. At the conclusion of her high school years, Wendy, along with several of her classmates, participated on an exchange trip to Alberta. Mom listened to music whenever she could, at home, in the car, in the tractor, in the yard, even while she was gardening. Her record collection was one of her prized possessions. Burton Cummings, Rod Stewart, Elton John, the Beatles, Fleetwood Mac, Stars on 45, Billy Joel, Carly Simon, Carole King, James Taylor, and the list goes on. Although Trevor received his formal Bachelor of Music at the University of Toronto, he and I have honorary PhDs in rock and roll, conferred in our living room. Dad, on the other hand, claims to be tone deaf with 2 left feet, though he would always gladly oblige Mom into dancing to their wedding song, Color My World by Chicago, whenever it came up on the radio or was played on the 78. Mom and Dad also encouraged Trevor and I in music by driving us to piano lessons, French horn lessons, trombone lessons, band practice, choir practice, school concerts, and so on. Her John Brimhall piano book of Christmas music was a favorite to play out of. When I was first learning to play piano, we would make duets out of solo pieces with her playing the right hand of the music and myself taking the left, to make it easier. Even though she could play piano herself, she often told me she couldn't play like she used to and needed me to play the left hand, but I really think she just said that so we could play together. The Christmas season itself was right out of a storybook. Lights, indoor decorations, a fresh cut Christmas tree, Christmas carols, the Christmas parade, Christmas baking, which always included horseshoes, shortbread cookies, and banana bars. All of our favorites, including Mom's. Teaching her children to cook and bake were one of the fruits of all that time spent in the kitchen. I don't know, but Halloween was likely her second favorite time of year. It wasn't really about spook and ghoul, but more about sewing fun costumes for Trevor and I to go out in, and often Mom and Dad too. From California raisins to cows, Robin Hood and Maid Marian to Big Bird and the Count from Sesame Street, the endless hours that went into the preparation showed. We also prepared treat bags for all the neighborhood kids, and by neighborhood kids, that would include any children living within a 5-mile radius of us, because when you trick-or-treat the country way, you drive to your neighbors and have a half-hour visit at each stop, but also receive a full bag of candy. I apologize, I skipped a page here. We're going to backtrack. In June 1975, she met her soulmate, Wendy Hiepleh, at her sister Karen's wedding. Wayne was a local cash crop farmer who was 6 years her senior exactly to the day. He was the only child of Keith and Janet Hiepleh. In their courtship, Wayne and Wendy enjoyed dancing at the Stork Club, cruising around in Wayne's Plymouth Roadrunner, going out with friends, and crop touring, whatever that means. They were engaged in April 1978 and were wed on September 16, 1978 at the Trinity Lutheran Church in Aylmer, and joined by friends and family to celebrate at a reception held at the German Canadian Club. Since the wedding was at the start of fall harvest, the couple took a short vacation to the States and enjoyed a longer honeymoon in the winter of 1979 in the Bahamas. They made their home at Lot 18, Concession 12 of South Dorchester Township, which was later marked as 12532 Dorchester Road, but for the Hiepleh family, it was simply known as home and described by Wendy as heaven on earth. On May 20th, 1981, their first child, Megan Jane, yours truly, was born. 3 years and 2 months later, on July 20th, 1984, son Trevor completed the family of 4. Mom loved to help Dad on the farm. Like any proper farm wife, Dad taught her to drive the stake trucks and tractor and buggy. She would cultivate and disc while Dad always planted the corn. She drilled most of the wheat and beans. Trevor, I'm sure you can remember many of our tractor parties we had when we were little, sitting in the cab with Mom, sharing a bag of Ruffles potato chips and listening to Raffy, Fred Penner, and the Chipmunks while Mom cultivated. I'm sure you also remember hitting our heads on the roof of the cab when we were on rough plowed ground. Mom loved the arts, especially music. For a time when Trevor and I were in high school, our family had season tickets to the Grand Theatre in London, which often preceded dinner out before the show, and Mom insisted that going out for dinner was all part of the experience. In later years, she and Dad enjoyed attending the Aylmer Community Theatre productions as well. Visual arts were also a favorite, especially photography. She even had a small wedding photography business for a period of time, sometimes in partnership with her dad, Fred, and also with our dad, Wayne, doing the video recordings. She also appreciated the fine arts, with Trisha Romance being a favorite, but also had a great appreciation for the amazing artistic talent of her daughter-in-law, Liz. As kids, Trevor and I were often told to go get the Honda and trailer for whatever yard work project of the day Mom was tackling. Whether picking and moving rocks from Mom's many flower beds and fish ponds or cleaning out the vines from the squash garden after harvest, Mom kept us busy. Living on a farm, there was also lots of grass to cut, and Mom probably also cut more acres of grass than the average major league caretaker of a baseball field. Mom loved to renovate, whether it be paint and wallpaper or sometimes something more major like flooring, moving walls, or updating full rooms. I remember when we first got satellite TV, HGTV was one of Mom's favorite channels, but to tell you the truth, the home improvement experts on the various shows were no match for she and Dad. In 2017, the ultimate renovation project was undertaken when she and Dad tried new construction for a change and built their current home in Aylmer on Calvary Road. Wendy was often called upon by family members to take care of business while they were away, especially for her parents. From watering plants, bringing in the mail, and cutting the grass, to selling monuments for Fred and Ruth while they were on vacation, she was always reliable. Wendy enjoyed living in the rural community and volunteering for the Aylmer Fair, specifically the Homecraft Division, and also collected cancer donations. Extended family gatherings were a favorite. Mom and her siblings took turns hosting birthday parties for their respective children until at age 13, it was determined you were old enough to not need a birthday cake and to play with your cousins. The infamous 6 Kristoff cousins, Geof, Katie, Kristoffer, Megan, Matthew, and Trevor. They were quite the bunch, and no doubt drove the grown-ups crazy with countless renditions of "There Ain't No Flies on Us" during the annual Victoria Day weekend fireworks. While Mom didn't particularly like traveling, we did enjoy 2 vacations to Walt Disney World in Florida. She and Dad also enjoyed camping in their motorhome at various provincial parks, which was a favorite activity to do when the grandchildren came along also. The said grandchildren, Andrew, Amelia, Julia, Chiara, and newest grandbaby Sebastian, who is 4 days old today, brought so much joy to their grandma. All the fun she enjoyed with her children could be lived again in birthday parties, Halloween, Christmas, and much more. In her retirement years, she never really retired. As she continued to sell monuments, markers, and inscriptions to those who called her, no doubt as a recommendation from someone else who had appreciated her caring ways and sensible advice as they sought to mark the grave of a loved one. Bob Keble told us he actually didn't allow her to retire as he couldn't take care of the inscription piece without her. While Mom had seasons of challenge in her life with her health, she rarely complained. My first recollection of her being in the hospital side from Trevor being born was in 1987, when, after some complications, she received a blood transfusion. It was not until several years later, in 2008, when she was diagnosed with breast cancer, that it was also discovered the blood transfusion of 1987 was tainted with hepatitis C, which ultimately led to liver cancer, which took her life. Her battle with breast cancer was difficult, but successful. After surgery in February and chemotherapy through the spring and summer of 2009, Mom was able to resume most of her usual activities after recovering through the strong chemo drugs that left her forever changed. And all through this, she and Dad laughed together, making their bond as not only life partners, but as best friends stronger. Right to the end, Dad was by her side as her faithful caregiver. It has been difficult to write this, but I'm thankful to have followed in my mother's footsteps and marrying my best friend, to support along the way and refocus when needed. If Mom were here, as cliche as it is, she'd say to take time to stop and smell the roses. It's the little things in life that you look back on and realize were the big things. Be intentional about taking the time and making the time, because things don't just happen. Relationships take effort. Vacations and family gatherings don't plan themselves. Taking the time for a little visit with friends is a huge investment. Mom was a kid at heart and knew the importance of being with family and friends. Thank you for seeing the importance in being here for her today. We sincerely appreciate it. Take care, everyone.
Thank you so much, Megan. Yes, the gift of music, so dear to Wendy, was definitely a passion she shared with her kids. So here now to play Claire de Lune is Trevor. a great testament to Wendy's love, the love she experienced in her life and the love that she shared with you. But now we have to accept that Wendy's life, so blessed with love, with music, with laughter, has now come to an end. She is in a place where there is no illness, no suffering, no grieving. And it is you, not she, who bears the burden of grief. You must heal your brokenness and must continue to live. That is difficult, and at times such as these, we need reminders to not let death defeat us. You who are here today share in that sense of loss, that sense of pain, and that sense of being somehow less by the loss of her smiles, her guidance, her presence. And these are all natural emotions when faced with such a loss. But to start to heal those wounds, it's important to realize that though you may now feel somewhat less by Wendy's loss, you are in fact so much greater for having had her in your lives. And as you live your lives, you will hear echoes of Wendy's love. Perhaps as you sit in an evening watching the ripple of water in a fish pond. Perhaps as you hear a familiar rock and roll tune floating on the breeze. Or perhaps as you sit down to play one yourself. Or perhaps as you simply spend time with those whom you love. For Wendy's love is still with us. Such a love, such a spirit of joy can never be defeated by death. No force on earth will defeat love, for love is the greatest power. So now for such a legacy, for such a life lived in joy and love, let us bow together and give thanks to that gracious, loving God for sharing Wendy with us. Let us pray. Dear God of grace and glory, we gather together to remember your servant, Wendy, and we thank you for giving her to us as wife, as mother, as grandmother, as friend, to know and to love as a companion on this earthly journey. For our lives have been enriched by hers, our world made brighter by her presence. But now with her loss, our lives feel emptier and our world seems darker. As we gather today, as we continue to meet in the days ahead, let us find solace in our fellowship. Comfort we who mourn. Console us in your boundless compassion, that today together we may begin the grieving process. Let us feel no shame in tears nor guilt in laughter as we reminisce and remember, and open our hearts to one another so that the bonds of love that tied us to Wendy will now be strengthened and unite us all. And now let us unite our voices in that love as we repeat together the prayer you taught us, saying, Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Now, friends, usually at this point in time, I would ask you to stand for a benediction. But instead, we have two more songs that Wendy wanted to share with you. Live Like You Were Dying by Tim McGraw, which, as you can read from your program, encapsulates Wendy's wishes for you, her nearest and dearest. And then we're going to immediately proceed to Heal the World by Michael Jackson, a song that reflects Wendy's hope for the world, a world we can all leave to future generations. So please remain seated for the first song, but then rise as the second one begins, and we will leave here and take our sister to her final resting place.
You say I was in my early 40s with a lot of life before me, and a moment came that stopped me on a dime. I spent most of the next days looking at
generations so that we want to make it a better place for our children and our children's children, so that they know it's a better world for them, and think if they can make it a better place.